This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. So sometimes I cover stories that aren't timely. This reporting is timely. It's new relative to Donald Trump and when he had COVID, when he knew he had COVID. And the people at the different events over the course of 3, 4, 5 days that he knew he had COVID and he exposed them. And the reason I want to talk about this story and in the depth and in the in-depth manner with which I'm going to talk about it is because sometimes I talk about stories in order that I influence a Republican who might be listening. I get a lot of messages from both Democrats and Republicans. I get more than you would think from Republicans saying, listen, I voted for Trump and I regret the vote. And I'm thankful that there are people out there who are self-reflective enough, who are modeling good enough behavior to admit when they were wrong, to change their minds when new information comes to light or when information that's new to them or they have new understanding of comes to light. And this is one of those cases because Donald Trump, to millions of Americans, is looked to as an upstanding individual with integrity and love of country and love of the troops and love of Americans. And I don't see it that way. I think that the evidence is obvious that he is a scumbag grifter who has no concern for anyone else other than himself and maybe his kids. Now, The Guardian has gotten a hold of a copy of Mark Meadows' new book, and in it is a timeline that describes when Donald Trump got COVID. And it's not October 2nd, like we previously believed. I'm going to read a little bit from this article, and then I'm going to cover a timeline with you, play some videos showing you where Donald Trump was on certain dates when he knew he had COVID. Not just the debate with Joe Biden, not just unmasked sharing a stage with Joe Biden, the octogenarian, but also with military families. Blaming military families and first responders for infecting Hope Hicks, his assistant, his aide, when actually he likely infected her. It's all just gross. And I hope that some Republican somewhere wakes up. Reading from this article, and remember, Mark Meadows wrote this book. Donald Trump's loyal chief of staff, loyal MAGA American. He's not some outsider. He's not some journalist. This Guardian article, Trump tested positive for COVID few days before Biden debate, chief of staff says in new book. Mark Meadows makes stunning admission in new memoir obtained by Guardian, saying a second test returned negative. So what happened? They tested him. He was positive. They tested him again. It was negative. And then ultimately, the test that's not an immediate rapid test came back and it was positive. And now we all know, because we live and we watch the news, we know that he was positive. We know that he got gravely ill and had to be rushed off in Marine One, the helicopter. Reading from this article, Donald Trump tested positive for COVID-19 3 days before his first debate against Joe Biden, the former president's fourth and last chief of staff has revealed in a new book. Mark Meadows also writes that though he knew each candidate was required to test negative for the virus within 72 hours of the start time, nothing was going to stop Trump from going out there. Trump, Meadows says in the book, returned a negative result from a different test shortly after the positive. Nonetheless, the stunning revelation of an unreported positive test follows a year of speculation about whether Trump, then 74 years old, had the potentially deadly virus when he faced Biden, 77, in Cleveland on 29 September, and what danger that might have presented. Trump announced that he had COVID on October 2nd. And within hours of that revelation, remember the the live shot out on the lawn of the White House with Marine One with the propellers going, and then spiriting him away to the hospital. The world waited to see what kind of condition Donald Trump would end up in. It was a soap opera du jour. Meadows' memoir, The Chief's Chief, will be published next week by All Seasons Press, a conservative outlet. The Guardian obtained a copy on Tuesday, the day Meadows reversed course and said he would cooperate with the House committee investigating the deadly Capitol attack of January 6th. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a subsequent video, his agreement to provide testimony, and he has already provided documents. I'm not holding my breath to see just how much cooperation he's going to offer, but it is good. And maybe there's a division with Donald Trump. Anyway, follow that video. That'll come later. Meadows says Trump's positive result on the 26th of September was a shock to a White House which had just staged a triumphant Rose Garden ceremony for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, an occasion now widely considered to have been a COVID super spreader event. Remember that? Glad handing everywhere, very few masks. I'm going to read from this other article to piece this all together for you. This is from the Washington Post. Inside the extraordinary effort to save Trump from COVID-19, his illness was more severe than the White House acknowledged at the time. His advisors thought it would alter his response to the pandemic. They were wrong. This is from June 25th of this year, when an article was written in the Washington Post recapping what took place. And now we know extra information that Donald Trump on this particular day, on the 26th and the 27th, he knew he had COVID, or he likely got COVID on the 26th at that Supreme Court ceremony, and then knew the next day. And it's the next day that we're going to start the timeline. But first, let me read from this Washington Post article about what exactly took place at that 26th Amy Coney Barrett celebration, mask-free super spreader event at the White House. The week leading up to Trump's infection was frenzied, even by his standards. On Saturday, September 26th, he hosted a party with scores of maskless attendees to announce Amy Coney Barrett as his pick for Supreme Court Justice. The celebrations had continued indoors, where most people remain maskless. By that time, the virus was surging again, but Trump's contempt for face coverings had turned into unofficial White House policy. He actually asked aides who wore them in his presence to take them off. If someone was going to do a news conference with him, he made clear that he or she was not to wear a mask by his side. Because Donald Trump is a dum-dum who doesn't believe in the clear efficacy of wearing masks. And he largely is responsible for the skepticism of MAGA morons all across the country who refuse to wear them and who infect their families and their neighbors and their loved ones and themselves. Now, on to the next day. The day after the Supreme Court celebration, and now we know he knew he had COVID, Trump had also hosted military families at the White House. At Trump's insistence, few were wearing masks. Military families, Gold Star families, people who have lost loved ones in combat. He insisted that no one wear masks. But they were packed in a little too tight for his comfort. He wasn't worried about others getting sick, but he did fret about his own vulnerability and complained to his staff afterward. Why were they letting people get so close to him? Meeting with the Gold Star families was sad and moving, he said, but added, quote, "If these guys had COVID, I'm going to get it because they were all over me." He told his staff that they needed to do a better job of protecting him. If you're a Republican and you've revered Trump for whatever reason, isn't this an automatic turning point? You talk about your reverence and your veneration of the United States military and her members, and your commander-in-chief is meeting with Gold Star families, knowing he has COVID, demanding that they not wear masks. I would love to know some of the families that met him that day and know if any of them contracted the disease. I hope that some intrepid journalists are tracking them down. On the 27th is what we're talking about here. On Sunday, September 27th, the first day between the tests and the debate, Meadows says Trump did little except playing golf in Virginia and staging an event for military families at which he spoke about the value of sacrifice. Trump later said, by the way, we're back on the Guardian article now, Trump later said he might have been infected at that event thanks to people within an inch of my face sometimes. They want to hug me and they want to kiss me, and they do, and frankly, I'm not telling them to back up. In his book, Meadows does not mention that Trump also held a press conference indoors in the White House briefing room the same day. So Trump is meeting with military people, knowing he's positive. The next day, on Monday, September 28th, Trump staged an event at which he talked with business leaders and looked inside the cab of a new truck. He also held a Rose Garden press conference on the work we had all been doing to combat COVID-19. Laughable. He's talking about how much he's doing to combat the disease while he's willy-nilly spreading it to anybody within his filth hole. Somewhat ironically, considering his circumstances, Meadows writes, Trump spoke about a new testing strategy supposed to give quicker, more accurate readings about whether someone was positive or not. Now, this is where I have some video to play. Very brief clips. September 29th, this is video of the debate with Joe Biden where he is questioning whether masks work.
The opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've also said, well, look at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this
masks
segment.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject because you're...
Here is September 30th, a video of a rally. He's in public, meeting with supporters, glad-handing people, maskless, remember. Gross.
I don't know how many are involved. This was supposed to be an Iron Range get-together, but it turns out big. You know, Biden has 20, 30 people. He's got those circles. Today he had a little bit more, like 30 or 40, but they were too close together. I sent him a note, dear Joe. They were too close, 34 people right next to each other. And yet he complained about our rally, right? Our rallies. Now, it's an honor that so many people showed up, because this was going to be a little quickie just to say congratulations, because Obama closed the Iron Range, and I opened it, and a man...
Mocking COVID precautions while positive, while having knowledge that he's positive. And then October 1st, this is for me, especially egregious. He calls in, talking to Hannity, I believe, blaming Hope Hicks, his aide, who he likely gave COVID to, blaming her positive COVID test on first responders and military members. Listen to this.
With them, and she knows there's a risk, but she's young, and I just went out for a test. They just do it. It'll come back later, I guess. And the First Lady also, because we spend a lot of time with Hope and others. So we'll see what happens. But
where are we with therapeutics and with the vaccine in your view?
You have to treat our people great. You can't just say, stay away, stay away. They come up to you. There's such love with what we've done for them, and there's such love, and you have to treat our people great. I think the vaccines are coming quickly. I do think it's somewhat political. They'd like to do it. Even the drug companies, they've dealt with these people a long time. I think they'd like to do it after the election, even if it's a couple of days. But the fact is, the vaccines are coming out. The therapeutics are coming out, and they're coming out really good. Regeneron and other companies are great. Eli Lilly. So, we'll have to see. The survival rate is so much better now than it was. You've seen those numbers, I guess 95% or something like that better. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'll get my test back either tonight or tomorrow morning. But I spent a lot of time with Hope, and so does the First Lady. And she's tremendous. I was a little surprised, but she's a very warm person. She has a hard time when soldiers and law enforcement comes up to her, she wants to treat them great, not say, stay away, I can't get near you.
Unbelievable that someone who ran on supporting the troops and loving the troops and hugging the flag and all of the bullshit is meeting with people, giving them COVID, military members, cops, and then blaming cops and military members for giving his assistant a disease that he likely gave her. And then, of course, on October 2nd, it was announced that he had COVID. By this time, we know that he had had it for several days. And the symptoms were so great, his condition was so grave that they had to whisk him away via helicopter to the hospital miles away. And subsequent stories we've read, we know that he was in real bad shape. And of course, his response to all of this, even though it's a book written by his chief of staff, is, it's fake news. He gave this statement today. Trump called Meadows' statement fake news. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. The story of me having COVID prior to or during the first debate is fake news. In fact, a test revealed I did not have COVID prior to the debate. Sure, one said you didn't have it. It was a false negative. What about the positive one you took, dipshit? It is time for Republicans to snap out of it, to awaken from their slumber and their worshipful attitude about Donald Trump, because this is who he is. He is someone who endangers regular Americans. He's someone who endangers military and first responders, who endangers his own staff. He is not to be venerated or worshiped or even admired. He is the worst of us. And it's okay to say, I made a mistake. This is not my guy. Trust me, I voted for George W. Bush once, and I made a mistake. He is not my guy. The same can be done for Donald Trump if you voted for him. What do you think, though? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Thank you for your time and attention today. This story is important. We might be on a path to change some hearts and minds here. Share this video with your social network, especially if you got a Republican in your friend network or family network. Or your family, I guess. It's not a network. Follow me on social media. Love to connect with you there. I'm at Dollemore, just about everywhere. And if I bring you some value, I would appreciate it if you consider supporting my work here on the platform for as little as $2 a month. You can click the join button below this video, become a channel member, or you can head on over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. All those are viable and great ways. Every little bit of support goes a long way. If I'm able to marshal the size of my audience and have even a scant percentage become channel members, we could grow this particular operation into something fantastic, and you could be a part of it. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. I love you and appreciate you. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.